Well, there is some extreme clutter out there to get rid of, and Peter Walsh is the man to do it. The organizing guru made a name for himself on Oprah's talk show. His show, Extreme Clutter, is back for a new season. I talked to him about it while he was all the way in his native Australia. Let's just start by catching up with you. How are things going? How have things gone on OWN? How's the show? How's life?
Look, everything is good. My new series on OWN, Extreme Clutter, is doing very, very well. And I think that, you know, one of the great things is that everybody struggles with clutter in some way or another. And the great thing about the show is I think it's, you know, it really speaks to people and the situations they find themselves in.
Peter, for some people who see shows about hoarding, or they see the episodes on Oprah, in past episodes of Oprah about hoarding, things like that, they may think, well, that's what clutter is. That's just the case. I'm not that extreme. What would your message be to them if they think I probably don't have clutter in my life?
Look, I think the difference between the hoarding shows and Extreme Clutter, my series Extreme Clutter, is that with hoarding almost always comes a mental health issue. But I think if we're honest, all of us struggle with clutter in some way, whether it's the junk mail, the kids' toys, the closet, the stuff in the garage. And here in Extreme Clutter on OWN, you will see real situations, and I think in situations that I think anyone can relate to, but also very clear strategies for how to deal with that in your own life.
For people who haven't seen the show, give us some examples of what really stand out to you that you think they would find compelling.
Yeah. Look, I think one of the strongest things we see in the show is the breakdown of communication with couples. We see, you know, a great show, for example, where the mother has really become a shopaholic, and how that's really, that financial strain on the family, that chasing of the bargain has really damaged the family and the relationships. Or a mother dealing with grief, the sudden loss of her son and subsequent loss of her father, or her husband rather, and then the need to accumulate stuff as a way of dealing with that grief. And so I think those things, you know, clutter that comes from grief, from excessive consumption, I think that's real for many, many people.
And before we let you go here, what advice in general would you have for people on a day-to-day basis that they want to start making the kind of changes that you advocate? What's a small step we can all take?
Look, I think for any person, the first step has to be to gather those you love close to you, to talk about the vision that you have for your life and your home, and then to start looking at the stuff that you own and ask each other, does the stuff we own help us create the life we want? Because life has to be about the quality of our relationships, not about the quantity of stuff that we gather.
Peter, my wife and I have our first baby coming, and I just took out 60 books from bookshelves, and I love keeping books, but there were certain things I said, I just don't need, and we need the space. It's the things that you think that you should keep, and you never really get rid of, but they don't really add anything, and I guess that's kind of what you're talking about, huh?
Well, look, that's absolutely it, and I think our lives change, our circumstances change. The stuff we have should help us create the life we want. Yeah. If it doesn't, if it's causing troubles, we need to let it go.
All right, Peter, we're going to see you on OWN. Where else can we find you?
Definitely at my website, Peter Walsh Design, on Facebook. But for tips and techniques, and I think a really wild ride, check out my series Extreme Clutter on the Oprah Winfrey Network. I promise it'll bring you some surprises.
Well, we'll do that, and we'll talk to you soon. We appreciate the time. Thank you.
He wrote a book called Does This Clutter Make My Butt Look Fat? That was one of his first books, actually. And this is when he was still on the Oprah show, when he would do appearances on the Oprah show. And he's got a line of like things to organize your office and your rooms, all your rooms and everything. So he's made a big business out of being organized, you know. And so I'm very envious of him, because I have an office that is a consistent problem for me. A perennial problem. It never seems to go away. I cannot manage paper that keeps coming into my house. The credit card offers, the junk mail, you can't throw a lot of that stuff out. You have to shred some of it first. And so what happens is I get a backlog of stuff that needs to be shredded, so that it ends up in a pile and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And pretty soon I just want to, you know, scream, because there's so much paper that needs to be gone through.
If there's one good thing about the electronic revolution is that hopefully we'll have fewer and fewer paper files that we have to keep. I mean, how many of us have receipts and documents and year-to-year records and tax files that just become a monstrous pile of folders and envelopes?
You know what I want someone to answer for me? Here's a question. You know your bills that you get, your credit card bills, your RG&E bill, or your Niagara Mohawk bill, whatever.
We keep them all.
Do you keep them all? See, that's the thing. I've read that you don't have to keep some of those.
We do.
I always do too, and it just seems like a mountain of stuff.
I'm somebody who I'd get rid of them. My wife is so organized. She does a good job. I may start a little home fire and tell her it was an accident. Because I think we can live.
Don't even joke about that.
I think we can live without them, but she really wants. I mean, she.
Why do we need the hard paper, hard copy? We can go online and look it up.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's the same reason I can't get rid of my house line from my hardwired house phone. I can't do it.
All right, we got to roll. Your local headline.
Attached to stuff.
Coming up next. Get rid of it.